Hello everyone, I'm Mike Gibson, and this is the programme Moscow Mosaic. On the 15th of May 2024, the Moscow Metro turned 89 years old. And it is said that the Moscow Metro is the most beautiful metro in the whole world. Today, we are going to tell you about those people who are building the Moscow Metro here in the Russian capital. So, let's get going. On today's programme, who builds the Moscow Metro and how it is constructed?
The biggest achievement was in 1935, on May 15th, 1935, when the first opening took place of the first metro line.
How the big circle line of the Moscow Metro was built.
It was a difficult, interesting and exciting experience, since we were adjacent to the current Sokolniki station, which had been built by our predecessors. When we made openings, dismantled the structures that our predecessors had built, we found bricks with royal seals on them.
What is hidden under Moscow?
Welcome to Bunker 703.
How the constructions used for strengthening the metro tunnels are created.
The frame that strengthens this whole detail has already been inserted into the mold. Now, as you can see, the pallet is greased like a
non-stick frying pan.
Like a non-stick pan.
The Moscow Metro is the most popular form of transportation in the city. Every day, millions of people in the Russian capital use the metro to get around the city. The extensive network of subway lines allows them to reach any destination quickly and conveniently. But this was not always the case. Development of the Moscow Metro began back in the Russian Empire, but the First World War and subsequent revolution prevented it from coming to fruition. In 1931, the decision was made to begin construction of the subway in Moscow.
At that time, there was a resolution to build a subway system as a means of fast and cheap transportation for people. The people of Moscow had already exceeded 3 million at that point. There were huge jams on tram lines, narrow streets, and congestion everywhere.
Soviet engineers and workers were tasked with creating not just any subway, but the finest subway in the world. In order to realize this project, the best specialists were brought together. Thus, on October 2nd, 1931, the MOSMETROSTROY organization was founded.
The company has been involved in the metro's construction from the very beginning, from the very first stake in the ground and right up to the present day. It has been the main workload for our enterprise. We are pioneers in the construction of the subway, founding fathers. The biggest achievement was in 1935, on May 15th, 1935, when the first metro line was opened and 13 metro stations were introduced all at the same time. It was a new and unexplored field, and Russia had only mining experience in this area. The youth who came to the construction site, they were socially active. They were motivated and mobilized. There were more than 10,000 of them. The role of the Komsomol in attracting new recruits was so significant that the Moscow organization even received the country's highest award, the Order of Lenin.
The construction of the first subway stations under Moscow was given the status of a top priority project. In many areas, work had to be conducted under extreme conditions. You can learn more about how the pioneering builders dressed in these conditions in the MOSMETROSTROY Museum.
Here, the most interesting thing about the headgear is that it was designed to have a drainage effect, so that when water dripped down from above, it would pour out, and the hat would be drier for a while, and ultimately, this prevented water from getting behind the collar. Such a hat allowed you to work for an hour or two.
Today, I discovered a new Russian word, shachtophone. It's a special phone for connecting metro builders in the tunnel. In order to connect to the dispatcher, push the lever down. Ooh. Even before the beginning of the Great Patriotic War, employees of the Moscow MOSMETROSTROY managed to lay a whole network of train tunnels under the Soviet capital. The city received a new convenient mode of transport. During the war, the Moscow subway took on the functions of a bomb shelter, a command post, and even a maternity hospital. In its first 50 years of operation, MOSMETROSTROY received 4 orders, as well as numerous awards in the field of architecture. Today, MOSMETROSTROY is one of the largest construction companies in Russia. It specializes in the construction and maintenance of underground and overground transport infrastructure. This includes not only the stations, tunnels, utility networks, and escalators, but also road tunnels, overpasses, interchange structures, and monolithic buildings.
Today, the company represents 38 enterprises that belong to the Moskovsky Metrostroy group of companies. Among these, there are 12 construction and installation departments that are specifically and directly involved in the construction of the metro. The total number of employees in the company exceeds 8,500 people, and we've carried out all this work using our own manpower, without involvement from subcontractors from the very beginning, from the first stage of construction to the cutting of the ribbon during its reveal.
Work on the development of the Moscow Metro network is conducted on an almost non-stop basis. Since 2011, the length of the metro in the Russian capital has almost doubled. In 13 years, 114 stations, 11 electric depots, and more than 236 kilometers of track have been built and reconstructed.
Today, each station has its own unique architectural style and appearance, and none of them are copies of one another. Although some may be more modern in design, constructed using modern materials, they are all a sight to behold and worth being proud of.
The most ambitious project in the history of metro construction in Russia and the world was the construction of the so-called Big Circle Line. MOSMETROSTROY builders played an active role in this project. The Sokolniki station is part of the Big Circle Line. It opened on the 1st of March 2023. Let's go and have a look how everything works here. The opening of the Sokolniki BCL station took place simultaneously with the launch of the entire Big Circle Line in Moscow. On March the 1st, 2023, the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, launched the operation of the new line together with the Mayor of Moscow, Sergei Sobyanin, and the metro's builders.
Now, the new ring line is fully operational, and travel is now accessible along its entire length. I'd like to congratulate Muscovites and residents of the Moscow region on this wonderful achievement.
In 2023, this large-scale project was awarded the Investment Leaders Award in the nominations for Investment in Innovation. The Big Circle Line became the 11th line on the map of the Moscow Metro, which now comprises 31 stations and stretches a total length of 70 kilometers, making it the world's largest metro ring to date.
Construction of such a line was also planned during Soviet times. Now, geographically, it was supposed to include the construction of zones, as well as a large ring line, with one of the sections containing the Kakhovskaya, Kashirskaya, and Varshavskaya stations. In the distant 1970s, construction on this line had begun, but then for some unknown reason it was suspended. And in 2010, Sergei Semyonovich came, and he gave the order for its design to begin construction. And for almost 13 years, the whole of Moscow, including MOSMETROSTROY, has been building the Big Circle Line.
Out of the 31 stations on the Big Circle Line, specialists from MOSMETROSTROY built and reconstructed 9: Marina Rosha, Rishskaya, Elektrozavodskaya, Lefortovo, Avematorna, Kashirskaya, Varshavskaya, Kakhovskaya, and Sokolniki. Please tell me, here is a very interesting letter. What is it?
This is a resolution of the Council of People's Commissars regarding the creation of the Moscow Metro. On October 2nd, 1931, the MOSMETROSTROY project was approved in the Kremlin, signed by the appropriate entities, and this document was published so that people could see and understand what it is.
Sokolniki Metro Station is an important part of the great history surrounding the Moscow Metro's construction. It was here that the first line of the Moscow subway was launched 89 years ago, and here in the present day, a new modern stage of development for the Moscow Metro is beginning.
During the creation of the station's architectural design, historical photographs were also used. Now, many of these photographs show real people from that time. For example, there's a surveyor, a worker, there's a miner, a train driver, and an excavator in the images. And that's why the charm of this station, of its architectural design, is connected to history, to the history of how people worked and built it.
The MOSMETROSTROY team began work on the construction of the new Sokolniki station in 2020. Among its creators was Sergei Kalushky, the head of the MOSMETROSTROY complex.
It was a difficult, interesting and exciting experience since we were adjacent to the current Sokolniki station, which had been built by our predecessors. When we made openings, dismantled the structures that our predecessors had built, we found bricks with royal seals on them and a cable that was still wrapped in paper. It had tags on it from 1931 Germany. We also found some concrete that had been laid by our predecessors. It was so hard that even jackhammers couldn't break through it, and ultimately we had to use a diamond cutter to cut through it.
One of the most difficult challenges that the specialists of MOSMETROSTROY faced was making the crossover to the current station of the Sokolnicheskaya line.
The difficulty was that the old Sokolniki station is a cultural heritage site, and so it was necessary to delicately and carefully, from both sides so to speak, approach the pedestrian crossing and thread directly into the station to embed the lining accurately so as not to damage anything, and then try our best at restoring the old structure. That was the difficulty. Now, what was interesting, that was by joining their new foundation pit with the old lining of the old Sokolniki station, they were able to break through to and examine the technologies used in the 1930s. They were able to see how the foundation pit was fixed, how waterproofing was done, because technologies have completely changed since then. And well, I can say that at that time, in the 30s, how the waterproofing of the old station was done, well, there's a lot to learn from that.
Among the 9 stations of the Big Circle Line built by MOSMETROSTROY, there are some record holders. For example, Marina Rocha, located at a depth of 72 meters, is one of the deepest stations in the Moscow Metro, ranking among the top 3. The longest escalator, measuring 130 meters, takes passengers down to a depth of 64.5 meters. In challenging conditions, the builders of the BCL had to construct the tunnels near the Riga overpass of the 3rd Transport Ring, where they laid more than 3 kilometers of track underneath an existing railway. Due to difficult soil conditions, work was sometimes very complicated.
In Moscow, the types of soil reach the 5th and 6th categories. These include waterlogged soils, saturated soils, clay, loam, and so on. And this complicates construction work underground.
MOSMETROSTROY workers lay tunnels with the help of a special installation, a tunnel boring mechanized rig.
They come in different diameters. There are 6-meter machines in Moscow, and that's how it is presented here on this layout, as well as 10-meter machines. This is probably the crowning achievement of technology now for metro construction. So again, in the 30s when they started, it was a pickaxe, a shovel, or there was a shield, but a manual one where people would stand, they'd work. Nowadays, the rock is broken by a rotor. It rotates and destroys the rock. Jacks are used to repel it from the finished lining, which is assembled here, and the rock protrudes back and protrudes to the surface upwards.
In 2020, there were 23 tunnel-boring mechanized rigs operating simultaneously on a single project in Moscow, setting a new world record that was officially recognized by the Guinness World Records. Under this 2-story building, deep underground, there is another facility built by MOSMETROSTROY, a secret bunker. The underground bunker, branded Project Number 703, was one of the most highly classified facilities in Soviet times. This secret storage facility, whose entrance was meticulously concealed, was built to house documents of state importance. It served the needs of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the USSR and was decommissioned in 2005. All the documents were removed and the underground structure was transformed into a museum. The entrance to the main shaft of the bunker is protected by massive metal doors.
This is no ordinary door, located in a special niche for a reason. And were it located on the same level as the walls, floor and ceiling, it had likely been knocked out by a shockwave and then it wouldn't be able to fulfill its protective functions. But because it's located in this niche, reinforced with metal structures, the door won't budge from here. Worst case, it'd get a little stuck. Best, it'll just jolt around and fall into place. It's half a meter thick, consists of 20mm sheets of steel with concrete filled between them, and this explains its impressive weight of 10 tons and 880 kilograms.
And now we're going down to a depth of 42 meters. The deep-lying special object is a complex engineering structure that was built using the same technologies as those used in the construction of the Moscow Metro.
This is mine shaft number 414. The construction of this facility was carried out through it, and in 1944, that is during the Great Patriotic War, a similar building appeared above our heads called a poppet's head. They can still be found during the construction of subway lines in the city. And the last door is a little more fun this time because there's a key,
Spanner,
a lock, and a hint on how to open it.
like this,
Yeah,
and
and we turn it in that direction.
like this, yes?
A little more. Welcome to Bunker 703.
Among the museum exhibits in the bunker, visitors can see hammers, shovels, drills, and other tools that Moscow builders used when constructing the subway.
This was done with fairly simple tools. First of all, jackhammers were used to remove the rock, and it was possible to assemble such cast iron tunnels.
Wow, it's so heavy.
They had to work with these all day long.
Really genuine.
Yes, completely real. MOSMETROSTROY gave it to us as an exhibit.
Look how massive these tools are. Now I understand how hard the work was for the builders of the metro. Look at this tunnel. The walls are lined with cast iron panels. Tunnel paneling is strengthened underground structures found, for example, in subway tunnels. They are usually made of metal or reinforced concrete. The weight of this cast iron panel is about 1 ton. Interesting. Now I wonder how they're made. To find out, we came to the MOSMETROSTROY factory, which produces structural elements for subway tunnels. This reinforced concrete production factory is located in the city of Pokrov in the Vladimir region. The company joined MOSMETROSTROY in 2008. For more than 15 years, they have been manufacturing reinforced concrete blocks to strengthen the tunnels.
In Moscow, several ring sizes are used. All of them are mainly 6 meters. These panels are applied in places of relatively comfortable penetration, but in some places linkages of sorts do exist, which is ultimately where these cast iron panels are still applied.
All the structures manufactured at the plant are made of high-strength concrete. After all, their main function is to protect the tunnel from destruction and ensure its strength and stability, as well as the safety of the trains and passengers inside the tunnels.
It can withstand approximately 600 kilograms per square centimeter of destruction. This corresponds to the B45 class of concrete strength. Each tunnel has its own ring strength, and this strength is achieved by the additional reinforcement and additional strength of the concrete itself.
On average, factory workers assemble 16 rings per day. Each ring consists of separate reinforced concrete elements. Special molds are used for their manufacture.
Here you can see there's a metal formwork with drop-down sides that are movable in order to create a shape with precise dimensions. There is compressed air here which controls and drives the vibrators, and the concrete which possesses the necessary strength is well compressed here. We have come to a piece that has already been reinforced, meaning that the frame that strengthens this whole detail has already been inserted into the mold. As you can see, the pallet here is greased. It's almost like
a non-stick frying pan.
Yeah, it's like a non-stick pan.
After the frame has been completely prepared, the concrete mixture is poured into the mold. The ready block is taken from the mold and transferred with the help of this large crane to the special tilter. The tilter is a special machine where the block is turned the other way up. It really looks like a book. It will take another 8 to 10 hours for the reinforced concrete detail to reach its required strength. Only then will it be transported to the finished product warehouse. Afterwards, a long journey lies in wait for these blocks. They will be sent to Samara. Today, the MOSMETROSTROY company operates not only in the capital of Russia, but also in other regions. Moscow's technologies are being implemented throughout the country. For example, in early May, work began in Samara on laying tunnels from the new metro station Teatralnaya to the existing Alabinskaya. The Moscow builders will face the task of digging 1,600 meters underground, which is the longest stretch in the Samara metro. The tunneling is done in a closed space at a depth of 25 meters using a tunnel boring mechanized rig.
Today, MOSMETROSTROY has several signed contracts under its belt, with the Russian Railways Company being one of its main customers, and is engaged in the reconstruction of a large mega project announced by the president. This is the construction of the Eastern Landfill, or the development of the Baikal-Amur main line. On May the 9th, Victory Day, we performed a linkage when faces from both sides join together and a single underground space called a tunnel is created.
The MOSMETROSTROY company continues to work creatively in the capital and other regions of Russia, despite the challenging foreign policy environment.
We had a specific task at the Shkotovo-Smoleninovo facility to make an inventory of the formwork. Now, ultimately, we needed 3 sets. We bought one from Perry, a very well-known German brand that is known for producing formwork. And at some point, considering the problems with sanctions, import, transportation, customs clearance, and so on, it was decided to approach the People's Republic of China. Our Chinese colleagues responded to this, and I can confidently say in record time. The Perry formwork took about 6 months to manufacture, while the Chinese company produced it in just 3. The cost was about 28 to 75% less than Perry's, including customs clearance and delivery to the site. And that's why today, thank God, such a market has appeared, which replaces the European market where the issues are occurring. We very much hope that Russian production will soon get back on its feet and start producing the same things.
For almost 90 years, the metro has been an integral part of Moscow and a popular tourist attraction. Every year, the number of subway stations increases, efficiency improves, and more people use this mode of transportation. Over 93 years, the MOSMETROSTROY company has built a real underground city that tourists from all over the world admire. Millions of Moscow residents and visitors to the capital use this convenient and modern form of transportation every day, one which is never late. This was the program Moscow Mosaic, and I'm the host, Mike Gibson. watch our show, and keep up to date with the most exciting events in the life of the Russian capital. See you next time. Bye.